Welcome back, friends. In this session, we are lucky to have with us Dr. Prabodhan Paul, who will be speaking on the topic Dr. Ambedkar and his newspapers, a historical perspective. Dr. Paul teaches history at Manipal University, and before that, he has completed his PhD from Jawaharlal Nehru University and also a postdoc with Max Weber Foundation, Germany. And he has also taught for several years in different colleges of Delhi University before joining Manipal. He's there at the Manipal Center of Humanities. And this topic is a very interesting aspect of Dr. Ambedkar's life because only last year we celebrated the centenary of Dr. Ambedkar as a journalist. His first newspaper, Mook Nayak, if I'm not wrong, was published on 31st Jan 1920. And therefore, this aspect of Dr. Ambedkar, which has remained untouched during our discussions so far on Dr. Ambedkar's different aspects, will be touched upon and covered extensively by Dr. Prabodhan Paul. So I welcome Dr. Paul and you at this FDP being conducted by Ramanujan College. And we have around 310 participants from all over India. All of these participants are faculty members. And I invite you to deliver your lecture on this very important topic.
Thank you.
Dr. Prabodhan.
Thank you. So I'll start right away. So at the outset, let me thank Ramanujan College for inviting me for this very important to discuss very important topic. In fact, the topic, as Nishant has in fact pointed out, that has not been touched upon. This topic has not been in fact covered, and most of the historical writings around Ambedkar in fact has never dealt with this question. So this in fact is an opportunity for me to also in fact this is an opportunity for me to invoke Ambedkar's contribution to journalism, and in fact how his newspapers had in fact played a crucial role in the making of anti-caste movement in the 20th century. So in fact the topic that I've chosen to speak today is Dr. Ambedkar and his newspapers, a historical perspective. And this topic has been part of my research for a while, and we get to hear many narratives about Ambedkar and his movement. In fact, there are many ways to understand Ambedkar historically, and most of the time, in fact, we get the sense of the movement through his writings, and most often, in fact, his writings are invoked to understand the orientation of the movement that he was leading. In fact, newspapers, the newspapers that Ambedkar edited or Ambedkar led, in fact, provide us another view, because for a long time, in fact, for many years, anti-caste movement was, as I said, that was understood through Ambedkar's writings. But these newspapers also provide us a view that, in fact, that let us know the everyday politics of the anti-caste movement. And this newspaper, in fact, these newspapers that emerged in the early 20th century, they in fact they provide us understanding of grassroots politics. That therefore, in fact, journalism play a very important role in the study of Ambedkarite politics. In fact, the study of journalistic writings play a very important role to partially recover the past with interesting and fascinating stories of the times. Because as I have told you, and in fact I'm repeating this, but most often um, uh, Dalit movement is, as I said, is understood through Ambedkar's writings, and which is in fact which is very important. But also at the same time, we don't know what was actually happening on ground, and that is something that in fact that particular gap is in fact filled by by the newspapers that Ambedkar led or Ambedkar edited. And in fact, as I've said, that in fact it provides us a view, a grassroots view to understand the everyday politics of the time. Uh, so before I in fact delve into the topic, before I in fact discuss Ambedkar's contribution to journalism, and what was the content and nature of the journalism that was in fact conducted by Ambedkarite movement. Let us in fact also in fact think about journalism, newspapers in a broader perspective. In fact, journalism or newspapers, in fact, are associated with ideas of citizenship, democracy, modern state, industrialization, uh, and technology. In fact, it is in short, in fact, they're associated with ideas of modernity. In fact, if one traces the history of newspapers, history of journalism, one has to go back to go back to the Enlightenment times, the Enlightenment era, that in fact that was started in Europe. And in fact, newspapers in that way are products of modernity. In fact, there are obviously, um, uh, there were newspapers that in fact that emerged in the 16th and 17th centuries. In fact, that laid the foundations of of journalism in the modern times. So in my point here is that newspapers in a way are products of modernity. And in fact, it all started with the, as you all know, I'm sure you must be knowing, that it all started with the invention of the press in the 15th century. And then how the printing press became the instrument of change in the succeeding centuries. So 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 the so the point here is that newspapers are product of modernity, and they have a particular, in fact, the way newspapers function. In fact, they function in a particular way. And in fact, there are writings uh, by historians around, on newspapers. And in fact, one of very prominent works on public sphere and the content nature of public sphere in Europe is done by Jürgen Habermas. And his work, Structural Transformation of Public Sphere, has in fact provided us the significance of the public sphere, how public sphere emerged in Europe, and how in fact that public sphere was that affected the politics of the time. So in fact, we don't have to necessarily take each and every point raised by these scholars working mainly on Europe. But at least we can understand that these newspapers in fact were, as I've told you, that these were the products of modernity. They came to India via colonialism. So colonialism played a very important role. Colonialism acted as a vehicle of modernity, and obviously that the modernity that colonialism brought in fact was a very different kind of modernity. That's why it's colonial modernity. And uh, and and uh, it uh, the, the the newspapers um, uh, came to uh, came to to India via colonialism. They were introduced to in India via colonialism. So I think what I want to point out here is that one must also understand the context in which newspapers emerged in India. So colonialism, in fact, did play a role. In fact, the modern ideas also, in fact, equally played an important role in the making of modern newspapers. So this should be, in fact, noted. Uh, Newspapers now are not just about reports, uh, and it's not about conveying news or opinions. It is also about what is being conveyed, who is conveying what, and that is something, in fact, that makes newspaper very interesting. In fact, uh, interesting materials to study. It is, as I said, that it is not just about reporting. Like where we tend to think that newspapers are only about news, about reports, like what happened where, and how things happened. But what is also important is that newspapers also has been very important. Like they have played instrumental role in shaping public opinion. So in fact, that is very important for, in fact, for us to understand that newspapers, in fact, foregrounded a new kind of politics. In fact, newspapers played a very important role in fact, shaping politics in modern India. And in fact, most of the prominent leaders were, in fact, associated with newspapers, like, right from Tilak to Gandhi, and there were several others who, in fact, were they thought it necessary to to conduct newspapers, and Ambedkar also was one of them. Ambedkar, in fact, emerged as a voice in the decade of the 1920s, and so far as his newspapers are concerned, he is credited to have founded 5 periodicals: Muknayak, Bahishkrit Bharat, Janta, Prabuddha Bharat, and Samata. Uh, Samata, in fact, was the mouthpiece of Samata Sangh, which was, in fact, led by Ambedkar. But in fact, I won't be talking about Samata because Samata was very short-lived, and in fact, it was associated with Ambedkar, but in fact, the other newspapers were directly associated with Ambedkar's politics, Ambedkar's movement. Uh, so so uh, these newspapers, uh, in fact, has played very important role. These newspapers were, as I've said, that in fact newspapers were not just, uh, 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 documents to, record things. These newspapers also shaped public opinion. We will be, in fact, discussing that point, that aspect of contribution of Ambedkar. But as of now, let's, first have an overview of Ambedkar's newspaper. So, in fact, as I've said, that Ambedkar, in fact, started his public life in 1920. It was in 1920 he established his first newspaper called Muknayak, and from 1920 to 1956 till his death, he was, in fact, closely associated with the newspaper operations. In fact, so far as, the newspapers were concerned, he was involved as editor of newspaper in 2 of his, 5 newspapers that he produced. In fact, the first 2 newspapers that, in fact, that emerged in the decades of the 1920s, in fact, were edited by Ambedkar. But post 1920, in fact, the newspapers that emerged, especially, Janta and Prabuddha Bharat, in fact, were edited by others, by his confidants, his colleagues. Uh, but in fact, in the early period of his public life, he was the one who was, in fact, actually into the uh, into the activity. So in fact, my point here is that he has, in fact, a very special contribution as an editor also. But also, what is very important is that, and I have been, I'm reiterating this point, that these newspapers, in fact, they became a platform to, in fact, to shape opinions and shape opinion of anti-caste movement, as well as, they also uh, they also made very important contribution in shaping the public opinion, as like, these newspapers also in a way played very important role. What is very interesting here is that most of his newspapers that he, in fact, that he produced from 1920s to 1950s were in, not most, but all of them were in fact published in Marathi language. And one of the reasons why he published it in Marathi was because his, in fact, he was based in Marathi speaking region, and since he was associate, he started his work there, and he was, in fact, he thought that newspapers uh, should, in fact, be published in vernacular language rather than English language. Though he was not against the English language as English newspapers as such, but he thought that the first the first preference should be given to vernacular language, and therefore, in fact, he focused on publishing in Marathi. It was only in the late 1930s and 1940s Ambedkar, in fact, emerged as a as a figure, as a national figure. Uh, it was it was it was in fact in the 1940s he became the member of Viceroy Council, and in the same decade, in the 1947, he was, in fact, he was also associated with the making of the constitution, and he was part of the cabinet. But before 1940s, in fact, the substantial a number of years that he spent were, in fact, based in Marathi speaking region, based in Maharashtra, present day Maharashtra. Then it was Bombay Presidency. So in fact, that was the reason why he thought that Marathi newspapers were, in fact, Marathi newspapers were necessary rather than English newspapers. He was, in fact, he thought, these newspapers, in fact, would potentially create a vibrant platform politics, and that was the reason he focused on Ambedkar. In fact, Ambedkar started his, as I said, as Ambedkar started his newspaper operations in 1920. But again, from 1920 to 1956, the 36 years period was not very, in fact, so far as his newspapers were concerned, it was not so easy a task to, in fact, continue newspaper operations. So, he had to take a break. In fact, Mook Naik, which was started in 1920, in fact, was discontinued in 1923, and then after 4 years of gap, he had to, he had to start another newspaper called Bahishkrut Bharat, which was, in fact, which was published, which started its publication in April 1927, at the backdrop of Mahad Satyagraha. And it continued, this newspaper continued from 1926 to 1929. And the next newspaper was started in 1930 at the backdrop of first roundtable conference. This newspaper, in fact, was the longest serving newspaper of Ambedkarite movement. In fact, it started in 1900. It was started in 1930. It continued till 1956, and it was this newspaper which was renamed into Prabuddha Bharat in February 1956. So, but again, so far as this newspaper Janta was concerned, which was established in 1930, the journey of Janta was not that easy. In fact, it faced many crises. Most importantly, the financial crisis in the late 1930s, early 1940s, and for some years, the newspaper, in fact, for some time, newspaper, in fact, stopped working. In fact, stopped its operation. and it was in fact, it was very difficult for a difficult task for Ambedkar and his colleagues to continue with Janta, but nevertheless they continued it, and after some time, in fact, Janta was able to able to accelerate its circulation. But nevertheless, in fact, what I want to point out here is that Ambedkar's newspapers, right from the beginning, right from the inception of Mook Nayak, they faced uh, they continuously faced um, financial instabilities. They were facing financial problems, and therefore, in fact, it also affected the operation of of these newspapers. So Prabuddha Bharat was the last newspaper that Ambedkar, in fact, was associated with. In fact, it was published in 1950. It, in fact, began its publication in 1956. I told you that it was, in fact, renamed from Janta to Prabuddha Bharat. But what is very important about Prabuddha Bharat is Prabuddha Bharat, in fact, was established at the backdrop of Ambedkar's decision to convert to Buddhism. So it was in that year, in 1956, Prabuddha Bharat was established, and therefore, each newspaper has their own stories. So these newspapers also were these newspaper reflects the, the politics of the time. They reflect the um, the ambience of the time, political social ambience of the time, and the newspapers, in fact, also provide us how Ambedkar and Ambedkarite movement in fact dealt with with different situations, how it dealt with the situation uh, since 1920. So let us first start with Mook Nayak, and I will, in fact, introduce Mook Nayak first, then Bahishkrit Bharat, then Janta, and Prabuddha Bharat. I will, in fact, briefly talk about them. So Mook Nayak was established on 31st January 1920. It was, in fact, it was established at a time when there was a discussion on representation, political representation. In fact, for the first time, especially in Western India, especially in the colonial context, people were talking about political representation to certain communities. Like in Western India, non-Brahmins, in fact, were asking for, were demanding representation, political representation in the political representation. So it was in this context Ambedkar established his newspaper. This newspaper was established in 1920, as I've said. It was, in fact, Ambedkar was before the establishment of this newspaper. Ambedkar was in the US. He had completed his PhD from Columbia University, and he had moved to London School of Economics to finish his second PhD, DSc. Due to financial problems, he had to come back to India, and it in 1919, and it was from then onwards Ambedkar also got associated with public life. It was in 1919 he first deposited he in fact he deposited his evidence to Southborough Commission, which was dealing with the question of political representation. So it was, in fact, in the context of this debate about political representation, Ambedkar had established Mook Nayak. So Mook Nayak had a very interesting history, because Mook Nayak was, in fact, uh, was the establishment of Mook Nayak was shaped by many people. In fact, one of very prominent person who, in fact, provided initial funds to Ambedkar was the Maharaj of Kolhapur, Shahu Maharaj, who was, in fact, Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj, who was, in fact, who was also associated with non-Brahmin movement. In fact, by 1920, he had become a very important non-Brahmin voice in Western India. So, in fact, the first help that Ambedkar, substantial help that Ambedkar got was from Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj of Kolhapur. He was the ruler of princely state of Kolhapur. Kolhapur again, is the princely state of Kolhapur is significant to Western India because it is also associated with the family of Chhatrapati Shivaji. So uh, Shahu Maharaja, in fact, helped Ambedkar to establish newspaper. That help was very important. But apart from that, he was also helped by many. In fact, if you go through his writings, especially the letters that he wrote uh, when he was in London to his associates in Bombay, one would in fact find one would in fact point out how this newspaper had shaped in a very interesting way. In fact, one of very important figures, another important figure apart from Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaja, another very important figure who was associated with with the Mook Nayak was Nawal Bhatena, Ambedkar's very close friend, who was in fact his classmate at Columbia University. He was a Parsi entrepreneur who had settled down to in Bombay after finishing his masters in from Columbia University, and it was Nawal Bhatena who helped Ambedkar whenever Ambedkar's newspapers in fact were facing any financial crisis. So Nawal Bhatena's help was very, very instrumental. In fact, it was Nawal Bhatena who also brought advertisements, like he was he was in fact uh, closely associated with the families, Parsi, business families like Godrej family, and in fact it was through him Godrej Industries had in fact given an advertisement in Ambedkar's newspaper. So uh, Nawal Bhatena's help was very, very important. In fact, it was whenever Ambedkar faced any kind of financial crisis during Mook Nayak's operation, uh, it was Nawal Bhatena who helped Ambedkar. So Ambedkar and Nawal Bhatena, as I said, that they had very interesting, friendship right from their association with in Columbia University, and it was a lifelong friendship. In fact, it is said that Nawal Bhatena, in fact, was a supporter of Gandhi, at least in the 1920s, and in spite of their political differences, Nawal Bhatena and Ambedkar remained lifelong friends. That this particular aspect should not be forgotten. Another third very important point that I want to make here is that there the editors who were in fact associated with Mook Nayak were in fact we tend to think that was uh, Ambedkar in fact right from the beginning was the editor of Mook Nayak. In fact, Ambedkar had participated uh, in the activities of, say, for instance, writing the editorials. He was the one who was in fact he was the one who was in charge of the newspaper operations for some time, at least for 6 months since its inception on 31st January 1920. But since Ambedkar also had to leave for his studies, leave India to England for his to complete his doctoral thesis, he had delegated tasks to others to so right from the beginning. In fact, Ambedkar never ever took up the responsibility of editor, primarily because he was in 1920 he was he was teaching at a college, at a government college, and the protocol of the government was that those who were associated with government job cannot, in fact, cannot cannot operate, cannot start or own newspapers. So in fact, it was uh, Ambedkar who, in fact, had delegated task to his his associates, and the first editor of Mook Nayak was P.N. Bhatkar, who was, in fact, again had a very interesting history. We will not go into his history, but he, in fact, became the first editor, Panduranga Nandaram Bhatkar, who became the first editor of Mook Nayak. In fact, P.N. Bhatkar remained editor only for 6 months, and it was in this period Ambedkar was the one who was actually, working on the newspapers. It was Ambedkar who was actually, operating the newspaper. When Ambedkar left to England, Ambedkar had delegated this task to another very prominent person. This person is very important because it was this person who also has some kind of a, he has he is associated with history. This person was D.D. Gholab, Jnandev Dhruvanath Gholab, who in fact became the editor, second editor of Mook Nayak. Now, why is this person important? Because it was Gholab who, D.D. Gholab, who in fact became the first person in Western India, first Dalit, untouchable, to have been nominated as a member of Legislative Council. So, and it was primarily because of his association with Mook Nayak, he was in fact nominated as the member of Legislative Council. In fact, Gholab remained the editor from 1900 till 1923, from 1920 to 1923. In fact, it was in 1922 Ambedkar had, in fact, openly declared his disassociation. He openly disassociated with Mook Nayak, and he argued that now he did not have anything to do with Mook Nayak. So, in fact, it was in the immediately after this declaration, Mook Nayak also was not able to sustain, and Mook Nayak, in fact, ended very abruptly in 1923. So Mook Nayak, in fact, so far as Mook Nayak was concerned, Mook Nayak was a newspaper that was established when organized Dalit politics was not in place. Like, it was the organized Dalit politics, in fact, emerged in the decade of the 1920s. That is, in if one has to, trace the history, one has to, start with, one has to, point out the role played by Mahad Satyagraha in 1927, which in fact led to the establishment of organized Dalit politics in India. So far as Mook Nayak was concerned, Mook Nayak in fact was established in 1920 when Dalit voice was in fact not very prominent. In fact, it was there were very few people who were active in the public sphere, and Ambedkar was one of them. But there were others also who were, in fact, who were active in the public sphere. So the politics of the newspaper was also qualitatively different from the politics of other newspapers, like of the newspapers that Ambedkar established in the later phase of his life. Um, uh, this newspaper, in fact, was what one of very important legacies of this newspaper was that this newspaper, in fact, started taking up the the uh, the Dalit question very assertively. And in fact, as I've told you that this newspaper was established in a time when discussion on political representation was on the was on the peak, and newspapers like Mook Nayak, in fact, tried to contribute tried to contribute by basically, by by arguing on behalf of Dalit community, on behalf of untouchable community. So though in fact this newspaper did not have any important role to play with regard to mass movement, like unlike other newspapers, this movement was in fact in that way distant from mass activities. As I've told you that in fact organized Dalit politics in fact emerged in 1927, and in fact Dalit politics in fact attained that organizational form only after 1927. It was in 1920s, like it was in the 1920s, when Muk Nayak emerged, the political activity was in fact was not that Dalits were not in fact prominently active. Dalit voice was not in fact so assertive. It was only in the later period that that voice became assertive. So in fact the contribution of Muk Nayak in that way was limited. But Muk Nayak in fact uh, played a very crucial role in changing the changing the discourse of politics. In fact, it was in it began with Muk Nayak, though Muk Nayak was not able to do that, but Muk Nayak has played very important role in establishing the arrival in basically in establishing a new change, establishing a new voice. And it was in the later period, in fact, the other newspapers, in fact, consolidated that voice. And therefore, Muk Nayak's, though Muk Nayak's contribution was very limited, it was very important. The second newspaper that we are going to discuss is Bahishkrut Bharat. Bahishkrut Bharat was established, as I have, in fact, I have argued just few minutes back, that it was, in fact, established at the backdrop of Mahad Satyagraha. Now, Mahad Satyagraha is very important. It, in fact, Mahad, it was, it started in 1900. This Satyagraha, this agitation was started in 1927, March 1927. And this was basically an agitation to to claim rights to draw water from public water tanks. And Mahad was a place in Konkan region where in fact the Satyagraha happened. And this Satyagraha, when it in fact took place, when the agitations took place in March 1920, there was a violence. And Ambedkar was also in fact at that point of time contemplating of establishing a new newspaper. This newspaper that was established in 1927 is therefore very important, because at one Ambedkar was in fact nevertheless thinking of establishing a newspaper. It was this Mahad Satyagraha and Mahad violence that happened after after untouchables, after Dalits, in fact, they asserted their rights to draw water. So the significance of Bahishkrut Bharat is immense. It is not just like it, unlike Muk Nayak, Bahishkrut Bharat was people's newspaper. In fact, it was the newspaper that was also that shaped people's opinion, that shaped people's movement, that shaped the Dalit movement in Western India. But also at the same time, it was a newspaper that was also shaped by people. So, for instance, the title of the newspaper Bahishkrut Bharat was in fact it was not it was basically decided in a public meeting. Unlike Muk Nayak was in fact Ambedkar thought about the title, and in fact it was decided by him. It was and therefore Muk Nayak in that way had a very limited a presence of uh, of other voices. So far as Bahishkrut Bharat was concerned, though Ambedkar had it was Ambedkar who proposed the name, but it was, there the people in fact decided whether we should in fact continue with the old name, or whether we should in fact take up the new name. If at all we take up new name, what would be the new title or the name of the newspaper? So it was decided in the public meeting, and we would find several letters and conversations, documents associated with the title of newspaper, and which in fact reflect how this newspaper was different from the earlier newspapers. So Bahishkrit Bharat was established in April 1927 at the backdrop of Mahad Satyagraha. Interestingly, unlike previous newspaper, Mook Nayak, it was Bahishkrit Bharat that made Ambedkar the editor of the newspaper. Ambedkar, for the first time, became the editor of the newspaper. In fact, as I've told you, that Ambedkar was associated indirectly with Mook Nayak as editor, but in fact, he never ever put his name, because there were certain government norms in fact, that did not allow him to openly associate with public activities. Uh, he had delegated. In fact, he had delegated the task to others. But so far as the first 6 months of the life of Mook Nayak was concerned, it was Ambedkar who was in fact who in fact operated as a full-fledged editor of the paper, without giving his name. So far as the second newspaper was concerned, Ambedkar was now, he was he had become a full-time activist, and by 1927, in fact, he was also associated with public activities. He had, he returned from England in 1923. From 1923 onwards, he was in fact associated. He was continuously associated with activities in and around Bombay city and Bombay Presidency. In 1924, he had established this organization that played very crucial role in the making of early Ambedkarite politics, and that organization was Bahishkrit Hitkarni Sabha. And from 1924, it was established in 1924. It was this organization that in fact was the vehicle of Ambedkarite movement for some time, for at least for a decade, at least till the establishment of his new political party in 1936. Uh, Bahishkrit Bharat was in fact the mouthpiece of, in that way, mouthpiece of Bahishkrit Hitkarni Sabha. And it was established, as I said, in 1927, and it was in fact one can see the difference between one can sense the difference between Mook Nayak and Bahishkrit Bharat by reading the content of the newspaper. And one could find how these newspapers, for instance, in fact shaped public opinion. For instance, during Mahad Satyagraha, or in fact before the build up of second session of the Mahad Satyagraha that happened in December 1927. Before that, how the public opinion was built, how people in fact used Bahishkrit Bharat to spread awareness, to in fact to disseminate new ideas throughout Western India. So the newspaper in that way was very different. It was a mass oriented newspaper, which was in fact in fact foregrounded a new voice in public sphere. So Bahishkrit Bharat, though it was very clear that Bahishkrit Bharat was in fact a newspaper that would take up the cause of untouchables, it also had in the course of time, it had also in fact taken up several questions, and it had, in fact, Ambedkar's commentaries on the on the political events in Bahishkrut Bharat are very important. In fact, his commentaries on nationalism, nationalist movement, his commentaries on colonialism, colonial movement have are in fact in that way very important, because those commentaries are still not in fact taken up in academic scholarship. In fact, there are few scholars who have worked on Ambedkar's certain certain editorials in Bahishkrut Bharat. They, in fact, uh, the problem with the uh, with the scholarship is that uh, the, the the articulation has been very limited to to the to to that particular event, or to particular period. What I want to point out here is that for long time, in fact, whenever history of Ambedkarite movement or Dalit movement is understood, most often we take cognizance of Ambedkar's writings, and his English writings are always considered as most important. But he had also written in Marathi, and those writings are often ignored. There are very few writers who have in fact tried to engage with his writings. But the problem, as I've said, that the problem was in fact the problem with those writings are that these writings are they don't deal with they don't deal very comprehensively, like uh, it doesn't these writings doesn't in fact take up the the, the context so comprehensively. So so the point here is that that some of his writings are very interesting, and they have been ignored for a long time. So there are many questions, there are many issues that were taken up. Like, for instance, it was in Bahishkrut Bharat. It was during this period, during the life of Bahishkrut Bharat. Um, uh, Simon Commission had come, and Simon Commission, in fact, Ambedkar also wrote some his opinion or his views on Simon Commission. In fact, there were it was in this period Gandhi was, in fact, Gandhi was also emerging as an iconic figure, and how this movement was in fact understood by Ambedkar and by Dalits at that point of time is also very interesting. He has very interesting things to say about Gandhi and the of and the nationalist movement. Um, and also at the same time, it was in this newspaper we also get to see his views on everyday politics. In fact, one of very important points that Ambedkar had in fact tried to point out, that Dalit experience was in fact different from from others, and this experience was not just because they were different culturally, or they were they had different customs, or they followed different customs. In fact, Ambedkar argued, and this was argued in long time back in his one of his theses on caste, which was presented in Columbia University. He had argued that culturally speaking, uh, Dalits do not have, like the untouchable community, or the culturally speaking untouchable community has is closely related to the Hindu community. So Hindu community in that way, Hindu culture in that way is in that way very very strong. But the point that Ambedkar was trying to emphasize here is that so far as experience is concerned, uh, Dalit experience is quite different from caste Hindu experience. And the one point that Ambedkar emphasized since 1920s, since the decade of the 1920s, was that how, Dalits, in fact, were subjected to violence, how that subjection to violence has, in fact, has played very crucial role uh, in uh, in uh, in in separating them from other communities. It is this violence that, in fact, distinguishes them. And in fact, it was in 1920s Ambedkar also, in fact, uh, came up with his argument that the structural violence, in fact, had been has played instrumental role. Structural violence against the list has played instrumental role uh, in uh, uh, in separating Dalits from the caste Hindu community. So violence, in fact, in fact was uh, was was emphasized, and it was in this newspaper Ambedkar, in fact, argued how that violence against Dalits, in fact, has, in fact, made them a distinct community from others, from other communities, from other communities. Uh, the, the third newspaper that I would want to deal with is Janta. Janta was established in 1930, and Janta was, in fact, established at the backdrop of roundtable conference, first roundtable conference. And it was this roundtable conference, the discussions and debates around roundtable conference that made Ambedkar a national figure. This newspaper has again very interesting history. This newspaper, unlike, previous newspapers, like if you um, uh, think about the title of the newspaper, you will find that this title, in fact, was more generic. It was more generic than his previous titles. His previous titles were mostly associated with, or they focused on certain communities like Mook Nayak, then Bahishkrut Bharat. So far as his third newspaper was concerned, which was published in 1930, which started its publication in 1930, November 1930. Uh, the title was very generic. It was Janta. Janata was like a very generic title, which did not mean, which in fact was like, which uh, tried to address questions of the public. And in fact, it tried to transcend all the caste divisions, and the the um, the um, the caste and communal divisions, and try to, it tried to foreground its voice as a voice of oppressed. So Janta, in fact, emerged in 1930, and a very interesting aspect of Janta was that Janta, in fact, also shaped Ambedkar's politics very uh, uh, phenomenally. In fact, as I have told you, that it was in 19, it was in the decade of the 1930s, Ambedkar became a national figure, a national, a political figure of national eminence in the 1930s. And this was primarily because of his tussle with Gandhi. It was, in fact, it was this tussle that, in fact, that 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 catapulted his position as a as a national leader. Uh, but also, what is very important is that it was in this decade Ambedkar also tried to experiment with with politics. In fact, Janta is one very good illustration of how, in fact, Ambedkar tried to experiment with new ideas. And so far as Janta was concerned, Janta, in fact, was unlike previous newspapers, like, Ambedkar's previous newspaper, Bahishkrut Bharat. Janta was, in fact, not edited by Ambedkar. Bahishkrut Bharat was the first and the last newspaper that was edited by Ambedkar directly. From Janta onwards, in fact, Ambedkar had delegated his task to his colleagues, his comrades, his confidants. So one of very important, uh, confidants of Ambedkar became the first editor of Janta, whose name was Devrao Naik. Devrao Naik was, in fact, a Brahmin by caste, and a very, a very prominently associated with, newspaper activities in the 1920s. And he was, in fact, earlier editor of another newspaper, but he became close to Ambedkar in the 1920s, and he, in fact, eventually rose to become the first editor uh, of Janta. His name, as I've told you, Devrao Naik, was he became the editor of Janta. Uh, Devrao, so far as Janta was concerned, Janta, in fact, also tried to, in fact, as I pointed out just few minutes back, that how Janta, in fact, try to transcend, caste divisions. How to he tried to transcend, caste boundaries, and it was uh, it was it was Janta that, in fact, also provided a platform to different communities who, in fact, try to who, in fact, supported Ambedkar's cause. So if you look at the list of the editors of Janta, many of the editors did not belong to Dalit community. From 1930 onwards, uh, Devrao Naik, when he started as an editor, he remained editor for 2 years. He was, in fact, succeeded by another, caste Hindu, caste Hindu colleague of Ambedkar, B.H. Pradhan. Then, it continued in he continued till for a year or two, and then, the chain, in fact, continued. There were few, editors, uh, there were few editors from Dalit community as well. In fact, my point here is that Janta, if you read the uh, the Janta, what you will find, the first thing that you will find is that Janta was also trying to foreground a very different kind of politics. It was, in fact, it was focusing on caste and untouchability. Caste and untouchability were most important questions for Janta, but also at the same time, Janta was also trying to point out that until we don't uh, mobilize the oppressed, we would not be able to emancipate. Uh, we would not be able to uh, emancipate ourselves. That is, society. If the society is if the society doesn't take broader questions into consideration, if the society, the progressive politics would not work for long time. So the for the longevity of progressive politics, for effective long term progressive politics, other questions also should be need to be other questions were also important, and they should also be taken up. So, in fact, in 1930s, we also find Ambedkar's engagement with other questions, like, he was associated with the working class movement of Bombay textile labor unions. He was associated with peasants movement, and his activities in Konkan region, for instance, with the anti-Khoti peasant movement, is something that has not been addressed properly by by scholars. In fact, very few of them have, in fact, tried to understand Ambedkar's position, Ambedkar's Ambedkar's contribution to peasant movement. So, Janta, in fact, provides us a perspective, and it also provides us information of as to how these movements were carried out. So, what is very one of very important, in fact, aspect of newspapers is that these newspapers were not just, as I pointed out, that these newspapers were not just, documentations. These newspapers were not like, just repository of reports and news. They also, in fact, they also try to shape up the politics. And so far as Janta was concerned, Janta was, in fact, was involved in the mass activities, and in fact, in the decade of the 1930s, we also get to see how Janta, in fact, provides us, how provides us interesting details about everyday politics conducted by Dalit movement. And that's very important aspect, because what happens is that we tend to generally whenever history of Dalit movement is invoked, history of Dalit movement is invoked, as I've pointed out several times in last few minutes, that Ambedkar's writings are, in fact, referred to, whereas we don't know how Dalit politics actually operated, how grassroots politics was, in fact, in operation at that point of time. And these newspapers, in fact, provide us minute details of as to how the politics actually happened, how politics, in fact, unfolded, what questions were taken up, which questions, in fact, were preferred, and what were what was the impact, and how people responded to questions. So all these things are, in fact, reported. All these things are, in fact, reflected in the newspapers, and therefore newspapers are very important in that way. So Janta, in fact, provides us very interesting details about everyday politics, and it, in fact, for instance, when there was tussle that happened between Gandhi and Ambedkar on the occasion of Pune Pact, how the people in Western India responded to this tussle. And there are interesting reports as well as perspectives that are published in the newspaper. And these reports and these views, these opinions, are very important, because they also provide us a reason as to why, for instance, Dalit community, in fact, opposed Gandhi's position at that point of time. So in fact, these things have not been taken up, like so far as history of Dalit movement is concerned. We don't have history of everyday Dalit politics, and history of Dalit movement is generally, as I have pointed out, that it is generally about about certain events, but about certain, like for instance, so far as history of Dalit movement in Western India is concerned, there are certain events that are invoked: Mahad Satyagraha, Temple Entry Satyagraha, or Pune Pact, and Round Table Conference, or Ambedkar's decision to convert to Buddhism. But apart from these 5-6 events, there were several smaller events that happened, and there were many other issues and questions that were taken up by Dalit politics at that point of time. These questions are not, in fact, taken up in the scholarship, primarily because these questions have not been touched upon. So journalism, in that way, provide us an interesting perspective about Ambedkar and Ambedkarite movement. The last newspaper that I will be referring to, or I'll be discussing, is Prabuddha Bharat. Prabuddha Bharat was established in February 1956. This was a newspaper, as I have pointed out. This was established on the occasion of at the backdrop of Ambedkar's decision to convert to Buddhism. And the name Prabuddha, in fact, tells us, in fact, it reflects Ambedkar's position vis-a-vis vis-a-vis politics. And he, in fact, had argued that Buddha would, the ideals of Buddha would, in fact, would help us help India in initiating the period of enlightenment. Like it was this the enlightenment period or the the Prabuddha, the the enlightenment in fact would be Buddha in fact plays a very important role in that enlightenment, and therefore this particular title in fact provide us a different orientation of the movement. From 1930 to 1956, Ambedkar's title, the newspaper of the title of the newspaper was Janta, and now he had shifted to Prabuddha Bharat, which also in fact reflects his his political orientation. Now, in fact, Ambedkar was in fact concerned with new questions, and he argued that until these questions are not taken up seriously, until until Buddha's ideas, or the ideas of equality, ideas of Maitri, for instance, are not in fact taken up seriously, India would in fact would remain a stagnant society, and therefore India need Buddha more than anyone else, and therefore in fact he established he established a newspaper. It was not newly established. The only thing that he did was he changed the name of the newspaper from Janta to Prabuddha Bharat. But that name changing in fact is very significant, because it also help us in understanding Ambedkar's new political position. And Scheduled Caste Federation, in fact, which was established in 1942, in fact, Prabuddha Bharat became the mouthpiece of Scheduled Caste Federation. In fact, Prabuddha Bharat was short-lived. In fact, it ended its publication in 1961. Immediately after 1956, in fact, immediately after Ambedkar's death, Prabuddha Bharat also sort of it was very difficult for Prabuddha Bharat to to sustain its circulation. As I have in fact pointed out earlier, that most of Ambedkar's newspapers had faced this this problem, and it was only in the 1940s. From 1940s onwards, the newspapers in fact were were functioning properly, as in there was some sort of stability. But immediately after Ambedkar's death, that instability instability again cropped up, and by 1961 this newspaper ended its publication. But one very important aspect of this newspaper is that it also provides us, and those who want to know the interesting details about Ambedkar's decision to convert to Buddhism, and how Ambedkar in fact how Ambedkarite movement understood Buddhism. It was not just Ambedkar, but how Ambedkarite movement understood Buddhism. One has to refer to this newspaper, and this newspaper in that way is very important newspaper, because it also provides us how Ambedkar in fact in 1950s, in fact it was, for so far as Ambedkar was concerned, Ambedkar was facing political crisis in 1950s, in the decade of 1950s. In fact in the early 1951 1950s, in the decade in the election of 1951-52, he faced a defeat from a very insignificant Congress candidate, and he again contested in 1954. He faced another defeat, and also at the same time, so far as his organization was concerned, political organization was concerned, Ambedkar was not, in fact Ambedkar's organization was also crumbling down. So this was a period of political crisis for Ambedkar, and in order to understand Ambedkar's position in 1950s and his views on Buddhism in 1950s, Prabuddha Bharat is a very important, in fact, document for us. And Prabuddha Bharat also help us to understand, how Ambedkar, in fact, foregrounded his ideas on on um, not just on religion, not just on Buddhism, but also on on politics. Like by 1956, he had in fact he had sort of amended certain positions. Say for instance, he was of the view that that uh, Dalit movement should now focus on reading Dalit movement should focus on on rural questions, and therefore he in fact was the one who also established this Gao Kamgar Association in 1955. So, and this association was in fact this association was involved uh, in rural activities. So we get to see you know a new shift in Ambedkarite politics in 1956, and it is Prabuddha Bharat that that provide us that help us to understand the shift. So these are the four newspapers. There was one more newspaper that I did not mention. This newspaper was in fact this newspaper emerged in this newspaper was established in 1927-28. This newspaper was Samata, but we since we don't have enough time to discuss on Samata, but we will not take up that newspaper. But the other four newspapers that I referred to, I mentioned, these newspapers in fact were very important. They were closely associated with the Ambedkar's movement, and also these newspapers also played very crucial role in changing the orientation of anti-caste politics. Like in fact it is this newspaper, it is these newspapers that provided a platform to marginalized voice, and in fact they became the vehicle of change. So I think I'll stop here, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paul, for taking us to the intellectual and political journey of Dr. Ambedkar through his newspapers. And it is very interesting how you have shaped the entire discourse and locating important events with and their conjunctions with his publication of different newspapers. Now, we don't have an open house right now, but I had some thoughts, and I'll like to share that with you, and you can actually elaborate on that, and that can also be helpful for our other participants. The first was you very correctly started with the whole notion of public sphere of Habermas, and how newspapers provide a platform for that kind of creation of a new public sphere. In fact, Robert Putnam's work on social capital also talks about how newspaper readership is very essential in creating a kind of social capital. And in the context of colonial India, Christopher Bailey has excellently pointed out the role of Ram Mohan Roy, for example, in creating that urban public sphere. In that context, if I may ask you, how far do you think Ambedkar, as a journalist, through his different newspapers or journals, was actually successful in creating a kind of public sphere? And if he was, why was there so much of shift in his position, not in terms of his political position, but in terms of starting a journal and then stopping it and then creating a new journal with a new name? What was going on in his mind? And I'm here coming from the Skinner point of view about thinking about the intention of the thinker. What was going around in his mind? Why was nomenclatures are fine. I understand the politics of nomenclature, how thoughtfully he put across the names of each journal, but the context and why it was warranted that he comes out with a new journal after every gap. This is one aspect that I wanted you to talk about. Second was in this discourse of colonial India, one important player was the British government. Because if you see the colonial times, British government had been very effectively using what I have in one of my publications called selective censorship. And the British authorities' engagement with publications in India, particularly during the late 19th or early 20th century, has been very dubious. So I wanted to know if you have looked at how the British were responding to these journals or publications of Dr. Ambedkar. What was their take on his publications? What was their response? Because when we are trying to create an intellectual discourse, the British become a very significant players in the colonial context. Okay, so these are the two,
Okay. No, you in fact asked, I think, a question about question about public sphere, whether Ambedkar was successful enough to, in fact, create some kind of a shift, or so far as that question is concerned, and it is associated with the changing of names. I think, let's first, address this question. So far as changing of name is concerned, it is not just Ambedkar. You'll find several others who were in fact involved in newspaper activities, and who in fact, in the course of time changed the names of newspapers. Like, we have very, very prominent example, that of Gandhi, for instance. How Young India was changed into Harijan. There are, there are several such, examples one can provide to, in fact, to make a point that these newspapers also, in fact, since they were believed to be, vehicles of ideas. So obviously, these newspapers, the names also emerged at some point of time, primarily because of a certain, because of the influence of certain ideas. Say, for instance, after 1932 Pune Pact, Gandhi had to change his newspaper, the name of his newspaper. So so far as naming is concerned, I think I would not call Ambedkar's decision of naming as shifting, in the sense that, it was obviously Ambedkar was shifting his political position, but one should not take this as a negative aspect of Ambedkar's politics. Ambedkar, in fact, has been very, very pragmatic throughout his political career, political life, right from 1920s to 1950s. What you see is that, if you start with Muk Nayak, addressed a very particular question. Whereas, Prabuddha Bharat is trying to, in fact, trying to address a question by invoking Buddha on one hand, but also it is addressing the people at a larger level. It is trying to point out that Buddha can, in fact, it is not necessary that one has to convert to Buddhism. One has to, in fact, one has to accept Buddha. What is very important is that Ambedkar is trying to point out here is that so far as Dalit movement is concerned, Dalit movement needs to take up its position vis-a-vis religion, and therefore, Buddha is the ultimate, in fact, figure through which one can, in fact, find refuge in. Now, that's a very political position. One need not have to, understand it as some kind of a spiritualist position. We don't have enough time here. Otherwise, I would have really elaborated on this particular point. Now, a second point is with regard to the shift. Now, right from 1920s, if we understand, if we take note of the number of newspapers, take note of circulation data of these newspapers produced by Ambedkar, what you will find is that, there was eventual rise in the readership. A community that was, in fact, was illiterate, largely illiterate. That community was, in fact, it was very difficult for a community which was illiterate as well as poor to, sustain a newspaper. And, newspaper needed funds. So far as other examples were concerned, like Tilak, for instance, Tilak had certain funds. Obviously, he also faced a lot of problems earlier, but Tilak in fact had funds. There were, so far as, funding was concerned, it was very difficult for Ambedkar to mobilize funds, mobilize finances, and therefore therefore he had to give a break. He had to stop the publication, and whenever the funds were ready, he started another publication. But these newspapers, the most important point that I made when I was just ending my talk, and that was that these newspapers also, in fact, they became the vehicles of the change. These newspapers are not just these were not just repositories of intellectual ideas that we want certain things to be done in this way. These newspapers also marked a certain shift in the public sphere, especially in Western India. So these newspapers, like for instance, the movements that Ambedkar led, the role of these newspapers was very important. Like without these newspapers, it would have been very difficult for Ambedkar to spread his ideas, to in fact to disseminate his ideas. So I think in fact it was these newspapers in fact that played very crucial role in foregrounding certain ideas. The second question is about colonialism. Now colonialism, since we don't have enough time, but Ambedkar's association with newspapers, and like what was the connection with colonialism, how did colonialism understand these newspapers? I think it's an interesting question. But we tend to understand that nationalist movement, for instance, was involved in the anti-colonial activities, and anti-caste movement was very strategic with the colonial colonial government, with the colonial rule. But it is only through newspapers we'll also find, especially in the 1930s and 1940s, where you will find that how colonialism was viewed by these newspapers. And what is very important here, since we don't have enough time, what is very important here is that how Ambedkar's organizations, for instance, how they in fact they built, say for instance in 1930s, they were involved in building peasants' voice in Konkan region and different parts of Western India. How these voices were taken up by colonialism. Most of these voices were in fact these voices were in fact repressed by colonialism, and some of Ambedkar's organizations, in fact, were even banned in the decade of the 1930s. So colonialism has a very interesting relationship. I'm not saying that Ambedkar was in fact Ambedkar unlike his nationalist counterparts. Ambedkar had a certain position. Ambedkar had a position, but that position also in fact changed primarily because of the change in the orientation of the politics. So in 1930s, Ambedkar, openly opposed colonialism, and he, in fact, the colonialism also, saw to it that some of the publications of Janta, for instance, in Konkan region, was in fact halted, and there was an interesting tussle that happened between colonialism and between colonial government and Ambedkar's newspaper. So, but we, as I said, that we don't have enough time. So yeah, I think I'll stop here. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. And on behalf of the TLC of Ramanujan College, I would like to thank you for sparing your time out of your busy schedule to address our August gathering of faculties from different universities of the country. And we'll be looking forward to hear more from you in the coming months, or we'll find some occasion to invite you again with more grasping and touching stories of Ambedkar's life and intellectual history. Thank you very much on behalf of all the organizers.
Thank you. Yeah.